Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto, and welcome to a bit of an emergency update right here on altcoins. And now we're going to calm down. All right, so welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you're having a decent morning, even though some of you might not be having a decent morning, which I completely understand, which is why I'm making this video, right? What happened earlier, and we will zoom in a little bit for this. What happened earlier is that we had a sudden aggressive move down in the markets. For Bitcoin, it really happened mostly over the course of the last 3 hours, like 2.5 hours ago. It was the big move that happened. The big liquidation event. I mean, the total liquidation amount was the highest, I think, since March this year, and that's only because I read the data since March, right? It could have been the biggest in the last year. Could have been, but a huge amount of people got liquidated. So a big spike down for Bitcoin. We saw a longer and a bigger spike down for Ethereum. For Ethereum, it actually started earlier in the Asian session already, which Ethereum is pretty big in Asia, so that was potentially the catalyst. But what happened? I don't know. All right, we know that a massive amount of Bitcoin and relatively massive amounts of Ethereum were dumped in the markets in relatively thin order books. But who did it? I don't know. It's unlikely that it's an exchange. It's more likely a firm, so that's a market maker, a fund. Maybe a whale, but that seems unlikely as well. It's a lot of money. Likely them exiting the crypto markets, which is fine, but they did not care about the markets anymore, right? Because they sold it off in thin order books at a very in a very small time frame. So that happened. So now what's next? All right. Does this actually mean that we're going to be extremely bearish right now? Does this actually mean that altcoins are going to drop down into a downtrend? The answer, in my opinion, is no. It's good to be cautious, though. All right. Because a move like this is not great. It's not great, and it could turn very ugly, right? If we look at Bitcoin specifically here, if Bitcoin is unable to hold the 30-day rolling VWAP, or if tomorrow, like Monday, today and Monday is usually a day that's not great, right? So I wouldn't expect rapid recovery today. But if Bitcoin is unable, or if Bitcoin is going to drop down below the 30-day rolling VWAP right here with high volume and continues pushing down, then it can turn ugly, right? So I do think you need to be aware of that. And we'll look at some altcoin charts in a moment. And I'll tell you to be prepared for that as well, right? But as it stands right now, if we take a look at the fundamentals around the markets, what you can see is that the S&P 500 had a spike down, but ultimately is holding incredibly well. So equities are holding well, right? Across the board. Also, if you take a look at the Nikkei, if you take a look at Chinese stocks, they're holding well. The volatility index opened higher, but ultimately is still relatively low. It's just at the highs of the lows, right? So the fundamentals are not bad, and we also still have a Coinbase Bitcoin premium right here. So the fundamentals are not bad. There's been no major news that's pushing the prices down lower. So there's no immediate reason because of the fundamentals for me to say we're going to be bearish. And then if I take a look at altcoin charts, I take a look at others, and I told you this weekend that this move was possible. Did I expect that we could spike down this low? No. But I did tell you that we could push down into that level if we got some bad news, if anything happens. And as you can see here on others, I would still argue that this is an uptrend, and I would still argue that altcoins are bullish. Now, if we're unable again to hold this support level right here around $300 billion for others, or for the total 3, so that's the total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, if we're unable to hold the support level right here at $1.07 trillion, now then I think it's time to start to not worry, but start to de-risk. But as it stands right now, I nor fundamentally nor technically see a reason to tell you to be extremely careful and to sell everything off. There will be people telling you that, and there will probably be good reasons to say that, but there's always good reasons to sell, and there's always good reasons to buy. Ultimately, I think the best thing you can do is take a look at the statistics, take a look at what's going on. And what's going on right now seems more like a normal pullback, more like a normal liquidation event in bullish market circumstances rather than a reversal. But we'll see. I'll keep you updated on that, of course, but for now, that's my verdict at least. So do with that what you want. Hopefully you've stayed safe over the course of the last 24 hours. If you used good risk management, that was the case. But for now, those are my thoughts. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, everybody, and bye.